All right, hey folks, back for episode 3 here. So last time we talked about absurdity and how a process of simplifying ideas and layering that gets you to a point where ideas tend to or can become absurd. And by absurd, we mean not reflective of reality across at least one sort of key dimension of the topic. So I use the example of abortion and how the debate around that, in large part, has become simplified down to one side is quote unquote baby killers, the other side is quote unquote against women or against women's rights. And neither of those concepts actually reflect how the vast majority of people feel about the topic. So the question then posed would be, why do absurd ideas stick around? You would think that they shouldn't if they're not reflective of reality. But as it turns out, our brains work in very specific ways, and that's been guided by evolution. So there are two traits that we've evolved with, as have other mammals, that basically help absurd ideas stick around and stick in our heads and our collective conscious. So the first of those is generalization. And this, again, you could kind of treat this as a synonym for simplification, as we talked about last time. But generalization is valued by our brains because it makes life a lot easier for us. Pretty much any animal displays this trait because it's just essential to survival. And the analogy you use here is if you're in a savanna and you heard, a rustling in the grass, it would be pretty bad for you to just, always have to know if that is a dangerous animal or if that's just a bunny. I don't think bunnies were in the savannah. But anyway, in either case, that doesn't really, help you to have that curiosity, because in the rare case that it is or not necessarily the rare case, but in the case that it is a dangerous predator, then if you're always going to wonder, you're not going to be around for too long. And so, you can see in this case that people have basically adapted this idea or generalized this idea of, if I hear a rustling in the grass, that has a chance of being a predator or something that I should, run away from. So these generalized ideas just kind of stick in our head much better than a complicated or nuanced situation where, in this case, you'd be stuck there wondering, like, well, it could be a lion or it could be a butterfly or, I don't know, maybe I should get closer and find out. So these generalizations, again, stick in our heads. And so that's kind of one aspect that helps absurd ideas stick around, is that these ideas are simpler and thus they're easier to remember, and so they'll stick around for longer. The second aspect is, as important, if not more so, and it's that we are inherently tribal beings. And you again see that in a lot of different mammals, particularly those closest to us, different species of monkeys, etc. And that was really important from an evolutionary perspective, that we were tribal and that we worked together, because that's ultimately how humans survived and began to thrive, was by forming communities. If humans didn't like to work together, we would not have obviously gotten anywhere near where we are today. And so these tribal bonds, you can look at, there's, certainly today there are tons of different layers that people have. You can have a family, you can have a church, you can have a company, or an employer or employees. You can have a local geographic community. You have different interest groups. You obviously have your country, and then you have obviously these various political and socioeconomic tribes or groups that we would see ourselves as a part of. And so, when it comes to these absurd ideas, I think what I've definitely seen is that, on average, several of these core ties have really weakened. Again, on average, and if you're looking, U.S. specific in this case, church, family, and sort of local community have all been very much weakened, at least certainly within the millennial generation. And we could get into statistics on all this, but I think probably not worth it from a broad idea-based perspective. And so because of that, humans are tribal. That means that then these other types of tribes have more room to play and more room to take up mind space and sort of importance in our own minds. And so we've seen, in parallel to those falling, a rise in the political tribalism, and that's again been well documented with statistical research. But it's not a surprise to say that that's kind of eaten into the other ways that humans used to be tribal. As those have weakened, political tribes have risen. So that shift towards ideologically based tribes poses a lot of risks. And again, we'll probably get into those a lot more in later episodes, but most notably, it really increases the cost of deviating from a tribe's orthodoxy. So if a tribe has already been infected by one of these easily spread generalizations that is absurd in some way, there's now a higher and higher cost to deviating from that, or from speaking out against that. And this is again something you can see play out if you are on Twitter for long enough, or follow the right people on Twitter. You'll see that people can be ostracized from their sort of political tribe, and people now identify as being ostracized from either the left or the right by, on the right, typically speaking out against Donald Trump and some of his excesses. There's plenty of people that fall into that bucket. And on the left, people who've spoken out against the extreme sort of social justice leftist mentality have also kind of now formed their own community, have been quote unquote ostracized, or I shouldn't say quote unquote, like have actually been ostracized from the left, just as those who have spoken against Trump have been ostracized from that portion of the right. So you can kind of, again, see what the result of that is, but because of that, we have these more and more entrenched, absurd ideas within our dominant political structures, being the left and the right, or Republicans, Democrats. And so as we see more and more of that, we also see higher and higher costs against that. And we're seeing this perpetual vicious cycle of people, ideas becoming simpler and a higher and higher cost to calling out the nuance and the details behind those ideas as being invalid. So that's all for today, and see you guys next time. Thanks. Bye.